A minister's son falls hard for a pastor's daughter.
He seemed to be a real sincere, genuine guy.
Anita was very attractive, and she seemed open to meeting new people.
With love and faith, they make it work.
He had a strong desire to be a good father and husband and provider.
Until the work runs out.
We lost the house, the warehouse, all of our property, everything.
They were in terrible financial straits.
Luther was making it very clear that he was going to take us away.
And the crushing blow of failure turns their dreams into a waking nightmare.
Open this door!
The crime scene photos don't really tell the story.
It's like you're staring into nothing but just pure evil.
Love may be blind and marriage bliss, but divorce is murder. "23-year-old Anita Rawley lives a quiet life in the quaint Tampa suburb of Largo, Florida.
Anita was pretty. She was a very beautiful young lady, vivacious, outgoing, talented. She always had a real bright personality, a lot of fun, and pretty headstrong.
She's also religious.
Anita was the daughter of a minister, so she was brought up in a religious family.
Coincidentally, 21-year-old Luther Basse comes from a religious family, too.
I met Luther when he came to visit my dad's church.
Hi. My name's Anita.
Luther Basse from Memphis.
He moved here to try out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was an athletic-looking gentleman, very friendly and outgoing.
You work here?
This is my daddy's place.
Your daddy's place. That's pretty funny.
Why?
My daddy's a pastor, too. May I?
Sure, thank you.
I wasn't in the mindset of, oh my gosh, it's a guy, you know. But, you know, he was attractive. He was a nice-looking guy.
So, what's it like being a pastor's daughter?
What's it like being a pastor's son?
Anita may not be swooning, but she's definitely intrigued.
He seemed to be a real sincere, genuine guy, a Christian, you know, with strong beliefs. Not just beliefs, but really, you know, lived it.
No longer an aspiring football player, Luther has another passion.
He always liked building boats, and that's why he moved here to build boats.
With Thanksgiving around the corner, Anita invites 5 church friends over for dinner, including Luther.
I'm in the kitchen. I'm wearing like jeans and a sweatshirt. I hadn't even gotten dressed, you know, dressed. Luther shows up at the door in a 3-piece suit and tie.
Luther, hi.
Hope I'm not too early.
I was kind of like stunned. I was surprised.
You're totally early, which means you're helping. Please, come in. Thank you. Beautiful.
I remember it being very enjoyable, just like a nice meal with friends. He wanted to take me out to dinner as a thank you for me inviting him to Thanksgiving.
The two start spending more and more time together. Anita's a stay-at-home mom to 18-month-old Jason, and Luther is thrilled.
Luther was willing, as a young man, to take on a woman with a child, which a lot of young men at his age would not do.
Luther takes to Jason as if Jason were his own, and Anita is impressed.
He seemed like somebody that would make a wonderful husband and a great father.
Anita and Luther tie the knot at her father's church, only months into their relationship.
He had a strong desire to be a good father and husband and provider. Anita, I think, had longed for something like that for a long time, and she found that in Luther.
My dad performed the actual ceremony. My oldest brother walked me down the aisle.
Psychotherapist Stacy Kaiser and forensic psychologist Brian Russell are cautiously optimistic about the couple.
The fact that Luther and Anita both come from the same background, being religious, could bode well for their relationship.
Unfortunately, the statistics are not good on the longevity of marriages when one of the partners already has a child, and it sounds like Luther is a guy who has maybe some overly rosy glasses on when he thinks about what it means to not only become a husband, but also become sort of an instant father.
I always say that it takes 6 to 8 months before the true self is revealed. And so what I worry about for them is that they're both going to change once they're already married, and they're going to discover things about each other that they didn't already know.
Less than 2 years later, Anita gives birth to Jessica, her first child with Luther. Their second daughter, Janet, soon follows, then a son, Michael.
I think of it fondly as like the best time of my life. How much joy it was, just doing things with the kids, simple things. I just kind of soaked it all up.
Luther lets Anita take charge when it comes to the kids.
He loved his kids, but when Luther came home, it was like the 50s. You know, me, man, I want to sit in my recliner and read the paper, watch TV. You, woman, you know, get the kids to bed.
While Anita copes with the kids, Luther focuses on his boat building business.
Yeah, okay.
Luther had somebody approach him to build a 53-foot catamaran yacht for him and his family.
I'm building a yacht. What? I'm building a freaking yacht!
With his family's full support, Luther's first order of business is finding a place to build that yacht.
You're working with fiberglass. There's a lot of environmental concerns. There wasn't really a place that we could find in Pinellas County because Pinellas County's pretty densely populated.
Luther finds what he's looking for, only it's 4 hours away.
Some acreage in North Florida with a 2,000 square foot warehouse and a 2-bedroom house that was fairly new.
Living in Steinhatchee, Florida, offers Luther and Jason, now 9, an opportunity to bond.
How many of your city slicker friends get to go shooting like this? Pretty cool, huh?
This is how rural it was. We literally could go outside in our backyard and set up targets like 100 yards away and shoot off rifles because there was no one to hit. And it was kind of fun, you know.
Luther also gets down to work building the yacht. But money is tight.
Sweetheart, I just need your signature.
We didn't have the money to pay somebody, so I ended up basically managing the business, doing the payroll, doing all the accounting.
It's not long before Steinhatchee's charms start wearing a bit thin.
It was a complete and total change, especially for me and Mom, because we're both very much like city people, and Steinhatchee is out in the middle of nowhere.
I did not like living in a rural area.
Why did he pick this place in which we have no friends or relatives or any resources or anything nearby? I have no idea.
And only months after he starts work, Luther makes a crushing discovery.
Luther, what's wrong?
The hull broke.
They completed 1 keel of a boat and a 53-foot long keel of a catamaran boat. The hull didn't kick off. So the hull was basically ruined.
The materials I bought weren't any good.
So it's the supplier's fault.
Probably cut a few corners I shouldn't have.
When you open a drum of material to use, you do a test panel just to make sure that the material's good. And Luther said he didn't do a test panel.
Luther.
Meaning his big payoff is in jeopardy.
So what now?
How should I know?
We ended up losing a hull of a boat, which was very expensive, and then we ended up having to file bankruptcy because of that. We lost the house, the warehouse, all of our property, everything.
Look, Anita, I'm sorry.
I want us to move back to Largo.
No, that's not happening.
Their relationship deteriorated.
I felt like my head was gonna explode.
It's not the only thing that's about to explode.
Anita had the upper hand, and Luther did not take well to that.
It was two bulls. She wasn't about to back down, and he wasn't either.
A bad decision costs Luther Basse his boat building business, and it might ruin his marriage to Anita, his wife of 9 years, and the mother of his 4 young children. So they turn to faith in hopes that it might keep them together.
We approached the pastor about doing some marital counseling, and he said absolutely. One of the things about Luther is he didn't really initiate a lot of affection. He was never an overly affectionate person.
Do you see what I have to put up with? He just shuts down.
I'm done.
Luther.
We went one time, and he never went again. So basically, that was it. It's like, well, I tried it. It didn't work. I'm done.
I'm sorry.
Living up there, you know, things were tense all of the time. The fights got worse. The tension grew.
They were in terrible financial straits.
This is supposed to be enough groceries for the week.
For the week. No, this is for the month. You're the one who got us stuck out here in the sticks without any income, not me. When are you just gonna admit your failures so we can move on?
Don't say that word to me.
Failure? Failure?
After months of fighting and drifting apart, there's only one thing Anita and Luther can agree on. They need a little time apart.
We had talked about it before, and it's just like, listen, neither one of us are happy. We just decided I was going to move back to Largo and take the kids with me. So that's what we did. And the guy that we were building the boat for bought our property, bought everything lock, stock, and barrel. So Luther stayed and helped him finish the boat.
Back in Largo, Anita gets a job in a fast food restaurant, but depends on Luther's financial assistance just to get by.
There was tension between Mom and Luther. There was financial stress.
But even with the stress, Luther makes a point of visiting as often as he can.
Every other weekend or something like that, he would come down to visit the kids. They were glad to see their dad because they knew they'd, get to go do something.
Dad!
That was his big thing. Take us and go have fun.
But Luther misses more than just his kids.
Hey, buddy. Any idea how to get your mom to take me back?
Did you try flowers?
And he's ready to make a big change.
Your mom's got to learn how to throw. I'm going to be a fireman.
A fireman?
I already passed the course and got a job.
He was interested in making a good home and being a good provider and taking care of the kids.
Well, Luther, I'm happy for you, but where is it, in Largo? Luther, it's this serious.
Boise.
Boise, Idaho. Luther, Boise's on the other side of the country. I mean, how's this supposed to work? They'll just send us money?
I'm gonna take you all with me. Once I'm settled in, of course. Give it a chance.
His idea was to go out there, get established, and then send for Anita and the kids and have them join him, and life would be great in Idaho.
I'll think about it.
We had discussed that once he'd lived there for at least 6 months, let's talk about it then.
So Luther packs up and heads nearly 3,000 miles away in the hopes that it'll save his marriage. It doesn't.
Hey.
Only 6 months after he settles in Boise, Anita files for divorce.
He'd gone through all these efforts and to great lengths to make a good, stable home life for the family, and she didn't want any part of it. He felt as though he'd been betrayed.
Anita just can't get over the fear that Luther isn't ready to commit, both emotionally and financially.
I wasn't interested in, dating anybody or kicking my heels up. I mean, we had talked about it before, and I think it was inevitable that there would be a divorce in the future. And I met with an attorney, and the attorney said, if he files, I would have to hire an attorney in Idaho to file for a change of venue, which would just lengthen the process, obviously a lot more expense. So I just said, how much do I need to make the check out for?
I think it's always naive to think that you can save a relationship by leaving it.
My suspicion is that Anita knew when Luther left that she was going to file for divorce after a bit of time had passed, because in terms of getting custody of the children, it's a lot easier when the other parent has left the jurisdiction and is far away, and there really is no practicable way to share custody.
But Luther's not giving his kids up without a fight.
I'm not gonna let you take the kids.
This has nothing to do with the kids, Luther. You're acting this way just to spite me. And you're not gonna win.
Yeah? Just watch me.
Luther was making it very clear that he was going to get the kids and he was going to take us away.
The judge doesn't agree.
He was in Boise, so it's not like you could share residential custody on a weekly basis or revolving basis.
Luther got supervised visitation, so he only had the right to visit his kids 2 weeks a year.
Anita had the upper hand, and Luther did not take well to that.
This custody battle is about to get ugly.
Why would she attempt to break in and slash the screens?
She had some challenges to work out. She had some demons.
After a rocky 9 years of marriage, Anita Basse serves her husband Luther with divorce papers and wins sole custody of their 4 children in the process. But the real victims of the divorce are the kids themselves.
Mom, when's Dad coming to see us? Well, that's up to your father, sweetheart.
I don't think there's any question they missed him. And I know, like many children, that they probably blame themselves, maybe. They don't understand.
You're not gonna leave me, are you? Never in a million years, Bucko. Get some sleep, okay?
As the children deal with the reality of the divorce, the new year brings new romantic prospects for Anita.
I had found out about Parents Without Partners, and they had a meeting on Friday nights where people could come find out about the organization, meet some of the members.
Enter local air conditioner repairman and recent divorcee, Keith Young.
I guess I should introduce myself. Hi, I'm Keith. And I've got 2 kids. And man, I love them, but I gotta say it's really nice. This is the first time I've had a night off in months. And I gotta say I'm loving it, so.
I mean, I was attracted to him. He's a nice-looking guy, tall, well-built, all that. But I wasn't thinking, go to Parents Without Partners, hopefully find somebody to date. That was the last thing in the world I was interested in.
But when the stars align, sometimes they can't be ignored.
So is this your first time?
First time here, or first time getting divorced? Sorry, I couldn't resist. It's first time for both.
Me too.
He was the type of person that made everybody feel good just being around him. He was very easy to talk to. He's very engaging.
Yeah, me and my ex, Julie, we just recently got divorced, and she's just different in every sense.
I don't know for certain that Julie suffered from depression from a clinical standpoint, but I could absolutely see how she would.
Must have been really hard on you.
Some of the girls were asking me, do you like him? And I go, yeah, I like him. I think he's great.
The feeling's mutual.
We spent as much time together as we could.
The way he treated her made her feel special. And she hadn't had that before, really. Not with Luther, anyway.
As I got to know him, I couldn't help but love him.
And Keith can't help but propose, only months after they meet.
I decided that, you know what? I'm ready to marry this man. What am I waiting for?
There's the thought of, we're gonna gain new brothers and sisters. And it was thrilling and scary at the same time.
This was a relationship with 6 children, living in a home that had 3 bedrooms.
But that doesn't seem to matter.
Anita's kids seemed to really take to Keith's kids right away, and apparently they blended very well.
Keith just loved kids. I can't imagine him being anything but warm, caring, and playful to her children.
We had a stable family life. We had good relationships.
But Luther isn't so happy.
Hello?
Luther, hi. I just want to let you know that I'm married.
Okay.
Is that all?
Well, what else do you want me to say?
All right, well, that's it then.
That was it. That was the end of it.
Luther isn't the only ex left out in the cold. So is Keith's former wife, Julie.
I think she struggled with the whole parenting challenge, and I'm not even sure she had a job. So she has no real way to care for these children. Who are you going to give custody to?
Keith's ex was supposed to have the kids over the weekends. However, she would tell him, you need to come pick up the kids.
Yeah?
I need you to take the kids. They're driving me crazy.
Look, Julie, come on, this is your weekend.
I need to do laundry.
I said, listen, you tell her the kids are portable. She needs to take the kids with her to do her laundry.
Sorry, Julie, you're on your own here.
Don't you dare tell me that I'm on...
So I just pretty much drew the line in the sand with that.
She seemed like she wanted to cause Keith some grief, maybe.
She had some demons. She had some challenges to work out.
If I could divorce that woman again, I would.
Tell me about it.
And then Anita and Keith wake up one summer morning to an altogether new annoyance.
It's just over here.
The screen had been jimmied and torn, and nothing else was disturbed. The police said, well, looks like a bungled burglary, and the guy just got spooked by a neighbor or something.
But that's not all.
Hey, what the heck happened over here?
Keith's like, Anita, the phone lines have been cut through.
That's not something that typically happens on a residential burglary, unless it's an alarm system somebody's trying to deactivate.
But nothing ever really came of it.
There was no follow-up to that particular case. It was just filed like many other cases are.
Whoever it was probably some harmless burglar who just couldn't pull it off.
A month later, Luther shows up for a scheduled visit with his kids.
Hello, Luther.
Anita?
But Luther's not alone.
I look out and there's this monster truck and then a woman.
Thought I'd take the kids to Orlando.
Here he is in this camper with his new girlfriend, and he wants to just take us and go to Orlando for like 3 days or something, unsupervised.
That's not what the court decided.
So where are the kids?
Inside.
Well, will you go get them, please?
First of all, he didn't tell me that he was bringing her. and I'm just not comfortable. I don't know this woman.
Caught off guard, Anita needs time to think.
Why don't you take them to the beach while I pack their bags?
Fine. I'll take them to the beach then.
Your father's here!
Hey, guys, I'm giving Daddy a hug. Oh, yes. We're going to the beach. How about that? Let's go. How you been? Over here, guys.
With Luther and the kids at the beach, Anita seeks advice from 911.
She wondered whether his intentions were to bring the kids back.
Yes, I'm having some custody issues with my ex-husband.
I'm not going to take chances when it comes to my children, ever.
Okay, ma'am. Do you need us to send someone over?
I don't think that's necessary, but I could use some advice.
She got some advice from an officer and decided to not allow him to take these kids for his vacation.
Thank you.
If he was really traveling across the country out of this overwhelming desire to spend time with these kids he hadn't seen in a while, why would he want to be splitting that time between his kids and the new girlfriend? It's disingenuous to me.
She gets to make the decisions. She gets to decide whether he gets to see them or not. And so if he had good intentions, then my hunch is he would have tried to coax her in a way that was mindful and planning-oriented instead of this big, sort of bomb dropping.
Anita's about to drop a bomb of her own.
So they pull up. I had gotten a baseball bat and set it beside the front door.
That bat wasn't for Little League. That was for protection.
Kids, you all need to get in the house. Why? Don't make me ask you twice. Watch some TV, okay? Set them up in the living room. I'll try.
What's going on?
Anita starts asking questions.
On things like, where are you getting a hotel, how long are you going, et cetera, et cetera. And he just got really defensive and angry at all this.
If you wanted to spend time with the kids so much, why would you bring that woman with you?
That woman is my fiance.
I don't care who she is. You're not taking them anywhere.
The heck I ain't! Hey! Open this door! You have no right!
I have every right!
I'm calling the cops!
Go ahead! They already know.
I hope you're satisfied. Because this feeling, it won't last.
After he'd traveled all this way, I'm sure Luther was very, very disappointed.
And soon, disappointment will give way to tragedy.
Help!
Blood all over the sheets, all over the carpeting, everywhere.
It was shocking, really shocking.
When Luther Basse and his new fiancée show up to take Luther's kids on vacation, his ex-wife Anita calls it off for fear that he won't bring them back. Weeks pass, and Anita puts the incident behind her, focusing instead on life with her new husband, Keith.
Luther's 3,000 miles away, and it was nice because we had a taste of something new.
Back in Idaho, Luther focuses on the here and now.
I didn't hear anything from Luther. He did not reach out to us at all after that incident.
It seems like things have finally calmed down.
Those months that we had after that with Keith and his family, they were great. They're fun.
Until tragedy strikes. In the early hours of December 15th, 1991, first responders rush to Anita's street.
Help!
They immediately took me to another house.
Can you tell us anything at all about what happened?
Something woke me up in the middle of the night. Whatever it was happening right outside my room. It was Keith. Dad! Battling with this guy all dressed in black. He was stabbing Keith with a knife. Mom was there too. Her throat had been slashed.
Keith was losing. He was just being stabbed to death.
She grabbed a baseball bat. She whacked him over the head with it, but he just kept coming. He just kept struggling.
Keith had a 357 that we all knew about.
But she just couldn't find it.
He ran because he didn't want to get shot. Mom came to the door and we looked at each other for a second. We heard the front door slam and we realized he was gone.
Call the police. Call the police.
I picked up the phone and I looked at her and just said, "The phone's dead."
I'll be right back.
She said, "Stay here with Keith."
Anita runs out and goes to the neighbor's house for help. And then the police come in. That's the next thing he knows.
Was there anything distinctive about this man?
I said he had a mask on, a ski mask or something. I think I saw his skin because there was a black area between the mask and the sweatshirt.
He was African American.
We expected him to be a little more emotional about what he had seen, and he wasn't. He seemed kind of calm about it.
This gentleman's gonna take care of you, son.
News of the savage attack spreads fast.
I'll never forget it. It was just a moment in time which struck me. Everything was such a shock.
I pretty much collapsed to my knees after I learned about it.
Word of Keith's death also reaches Luther, nearly 3,000 miles away in Boise.
Phil, I just heard the news.
The phone rang that morning, and I picked it up, and it was Luther.
I'm sorry.
And I immediately responded, "Thank you for calling. I know it's terrible. Please pray for us. I appreciate you calling."
No problem. You take care now. Okay.
When it comes to a motive, police are at a loss.
Could this be a home invasion? Could it be a robbery gone bad? This was somebody very angry with either Keith or Anita.
Investigators soon learn the phone line has been cut, just as it had in June. Was the June robbery a dry run to murder? One day into the investigation, a discarded ski mask is located on a golf course less than a mile from the crime scene.
Had blood on the mask, and it matched in general description what Jason had provided. Once the forensics came back on the ski mask, there were only hairs of Caucasian origin in that mask. We had kids in the neighborhood who had seen a white male running at 3 o'clock in the morning from the crime scene. And we were pretty well convinced that this attack in no way involved a black male.
He was African American.
Jason, at 12 years old, there may have been some discussion about, is it possible that he had something to do with this?
This gentleman's gonna take care of you, son.
Besides Jason, suspicion also falls on the exes, Luther and Julie.
We reached out to those spouses. We sent John Carroll up to Boise.
There you go.
Luther seemed very eager to help us.
So, you said you were elk hunting.
Yes, sir. Fired a few shots, but he got away.
He described how he had shot at an elk and missed the elk, so the rifle was dirty.
And you were hunting the whole time.
You can ask my fiancée. She'll tell you.
Luther's fiancée, Carrie, backs up his alibi. And so do the flight records.
We were looking at airline manifests to see if we could put Luther traveling to Florida or any of those sorts of things.
But we weren't able to put him on a flight.
We didn't have a lot to go on with Luther at that point.
Anita survives the attack.
Her recovery was very miraculous. She was stabbed, she was hit in the head with a roofing hatchet. I mean, she endured a lot of things. Any one of those could have been fatal, and they weren't. Keith took the brunt of everything. He had so many wounds. Each one were fatal.
Anita is released from the hospital 2 days later, happy to be alive, but devastated by her new reality as a widow.
Obviously, it's not a surprise. It's just like, please don't tell me this. So that's hard to take. My pastor said that, like Jesus Christ, he sacrificed and gave up his life to save someone else. And that's true. That's exactly what happened.
For Anita, it will be a long road to recovery.
There is the element of survivor guilt, of wondering how did she survive and not him, and wondering if she could have possibly helped him.
At the same time, she is called to sort of put that on the back burner and think about the fact that there were children in the home, one of whom saw that happen, and she's got to figure out how to be there for them and try to help them through the obvious trauma that they're gonna have.
And yet at the same time, she has to be incredibly relieved that she's still alive.
While Anita recovers, police continue the investigation. With Luther eliminated, Julie is next on the suspect list.
We did develop information that there may have been some animosity there on the part of Julie.
Julie is entitled to full custody of her kids after Keith dies, so she has motive. She also has an alibi. And to prove it, she takes and passes a polygraph test.
She had indicated that she and her husband were asleep with her kids, who she had visitation with that particular weekend.
Jason is also quickly eliminated as a suspect because of his age, size, and the savagery of the attack.
He was a young boy, 12 years old.
Dad!
It didn't seem logical.
It was ruled out, and it was quickly ruled out. Because the mask, the lower portion of the mask, was black, he was mistaken on the description of the suspect.
We were back to square one and going down the list of people who might have had motives.
Nobody would want to attack a sweet young couple like this and brutalize them so terribly. It's like, why so random? Why the violence?
Detectives soon discover it's anything but random.
He said Keith was a casualty of war.
What happened to Anita could happen to her.
Anita Young's second husband, Keith, is savagely murdered in their Florida home. Their exes, Luther and Julie, each have solid alibis, leaving the investigation at a standstill until the Largo PD gets a surprise break in the case.
I was at my desk in the police department one afternoon, and I had a phone call from Boise.
I started to suspect something when when Luther shows up with a gash on the back of his head, and it was on the same day that Keith was killed.
Coincidence? Perhaps not.
Once he got back from his hunting trip, he asked her to look at an injury on his head.
Grab me some painkillers, will you?
She disclosed that she was aware of the previous trip that Luther had taken, the June before the murder.
Well, he's also been back to Florida more times than you know. It's just over here.
This was the same time frame as the attempted burglary to the residence.
I know what you're thinking.
Luther's mental state seemed to deteriorate.
You don't know what I've been through with that woman.
There were some tense moments between the two of them, and in one of those particular moments, he made an idle threat.
You know, you could end up just like her.
It's not solid evidence, but it's the best lead they've got.
And I'm getting really worried that he's gonna make good on it.
Would have been hearsay at best, but it certainly seemed it was time to go to Idaho.
But we don't have any evidence against him. We're gonna need a confession.
So we formulated a plan to take Luther's side and go along with the idea that he was trying to do the right thing by his children.
You love your kids, right, Luther?
Of course I do.
Good father. You'd do anything for them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
He was sticking to his alibi.
I was hunting the whole entire weekend.
Until detectives try a new tactic.
We brought a letter that was written by one of the children that was never sent to him. He thought he was a great father. And then in all respects on the outside, it looked like he was. But to see this letter written from his kid who basically said, "You're not a good father," would take him on the emotional roller coaster, so to speak. He went silent, couldn't take his eyes off the letter.
At that point, it was just like a dam broke, and Luther told us the whole story.
He said he left home that Saturday morning, telling his girlfriend that he was going hunting. And he drove to Salt Lake City. This is about a 5-hour trip.
He decided to fly from Salt Lake City instead of Boise using an assumed name.
We would identify his fingerprints on this ticket that he turned over to the flight staff as he boarded the airplane. He got into Tampa late that Saturday night. He got into the backyard of the residence. His intent was to go inside, cut Anita's throat, and leave.
I felt the knife, and when I opened my eyes, I remember looking into his eyes, and it's like you're staring into nothing but just pure evil. Keith wakes up and pulled this guy off of me, and then they started struggling, fighting, slashing.
Luther told us that Jason yelled out, "Dad!
Dad!
Dad, are you all right?" And Luther thought he was talking to him.
But Jason is talking to Keith.
Dad!
Luther almost slipped up there. If he would have answered Jason, then obviously he would have been apprehended sooner. He said he was sorry that he had to kill Keith, but Keith was a casualty of war.
Get the gun!
When Luther is tried on first-degree murder charges in March 1993, he's sentenced to life in prison, plus 17 years.
Theoretically, he'll never get out, but I know Anita has lived in fear. I'm not sure that 25 years in prison has dulled his rage at all.
I know he uses the excuse, I did it for my kids.
Dad!
But how can you claim to love me and then come in to our house and kill Keith in front of me? Slash Mom's throat in front of me. Make me endure that. Don't ever look me in the eyes and tell me you love me.
The primary driver of this was his rage against Anita for basically having bested him in the custody battle. And we can totally look back now and see that, yeah, this is not a guy who cares deeply about children and fathering and parenting or any of that. This is a guy who is a vengeful, rageful sociopath.
And he doesn't have any regard for the fact that he has children in there, that there's another man in there. He just wants to accomplish his mission of going after his ex-wife.
To this day, Anita remains haunted by the thought of what might have been.
I never imagined I could ever be that happy. If Keith had lived, I think that after 24 years, it would still be that kind of love. I don't think that would have ever changed.